If you've ever wished you had a podcasting pro with nearly a decade of experience whispering growth secrets into your ear, that's exactly what you'll get when you tune into Podcast Growth Tools with me, your host, Kylee Chandler. This is the ultimate show for you if you're ready to grow your podcast audience, skyrocket engagement, and turn your show into a traffic-driving, list-building powerhouse. I've been in the podcasting world since 2015, helping creators like Amy Porterfield grow their shows to over 1 million downloads a month. My superpower? Breaking down proven podcast strategies and marketing techniques into step-by-step guidance you can actually implement without fluff, overwhelm, or guesswork. On this show, we're getting real about what actually moves the needle when it comes to growing your podcast audience and using it to boost your email list growth. From actionable insights and expert interviews to behind-the-scenes secrets, I'll help you turn your podcast into a traffic-driving, list-growing machine. Grab your earbuds, hit subscribe, and let's take your podcast to the next level. Okay, I'm going to just say it. This might have been one of my favorite podcast interviews to date. I know I've had a lot of good ones, and it's definitely hard to choose, but my guest today is on fire. Her name is Jessica Marx, and she is one of the top business advisors and growth advisors. And so I was just excited to get on a call with her because I wanted to kind of pick her brain. And this episode is a little bit different than the other interviews I've done, purely because we did talk about the podcast, and actually she drops such a massive knowledge bomb about something you should be doing as a podcaster and entrepreneur, which we'll get to. But she also takes us into the world of her company, Tailored Premier. And she really shares what it looks like to when she works with these really established, successful entrepreneurs and what trends she's seen and how she supports them in setting up their business so that one day, if they choose to go to acquisition, they're in a place that they can. And the reason I think this is so interesting is because I think as any entrepreneur, even if you're a full-time podcaster, you could potentially sell your business and generate life-changing revenue. But if we don't set it up in the right way and we continue to grow and grow and grow, it's easier to become entangled in it. So anyways, I kind of just wanted to pick her brain and ask her all these interesting questions about it, what it looks like, how should we be setting up our businesses? And then of course, we talked about podcasting. How does it fit into her business strategy, her business funnels? And she shares some really interesting, unique insights into how she specifically uses her podcast. And I think it's actually really refreshing. And then, like I said, she shares one tidbit that I was like, this is so brilliant. This is so smart. Every single podcaster should be doing this. So be sure you tune in and you will find out exactly what that is. And listen, if you're not getting my weekly newsletter, you are truly missing out. I share so many fun, valuable insights in my newsletter. I take you behind the scenes, share personal things, share what's coming up on the show. I share my favorite platforms. I share my favorite marketing strategies, podcast strategies, so many things. So it goes so far beyond just dropping an email in and saying, hey, by the way, this is the podcast episode this week. I am sharing so many goodies and juicy things in my newsletter. So go ahead, head over to podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe and get on my newsletter. You will not regret it. You are going to love receiving it each and every week. And hopefully I'm entertaining and you enjoy it just to make you laugh and make you think and things like that. So anyways, that's podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe. I would love to have you join me on my weekly newsletter. But for now, let's jump into this episode with Jessica Marx. You are going to love her. All right, let's get to it. Welcome to the show, Jessica. I am beyond excited to have you and all of your knowledge here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to dive in after having you on Millions Are Made.
I know. Okay, so you've had this incredible journey. Talk to me about how you ended up really in the business that you're pouring into now, so Tailored Premier. So I'd love to hear a little bit of your journey of what got you here.
Yes. So I left a career in commercial real estate in 2009 to join a healthcare startup in San Diego. And long story short is That company grew to be valued as a multi-billion-dollar company. I was an executive overseeing our entire national sales team, as well as our commercial operations at our corporate office. And in 2017, pregnant with twins, I decided to leave the healthcare field and really start mentoring and advising women on how to grow and scale their companies once they've already hit that multi-million dollar mark. And one of the areas that we saw a huge gap in is that women were just starting to really focus on acquisition and exiting their companies. But the problem is they hadn't set them up correctly. And so they were getting these valuations, but ended up settling for a number much less.
Mm-hmm.
And so we created a proprietary auditing method where we come in years ahead of an exit and we look at the company from a full 360-degree view as if I was going to buy it with my own cash, and identify all the areas that they have gaps and opportunities, risk assessment, how they should restructure their offers, and really provide a business that's going to be highly profitable, but also not owner dependent. And because of our process, we find that a lot of women either decide to stay on and either name a new CEO, or they build a business that they can truly just be in 10 to 20 hours a week and have a team run. Or if they do end up going to acquisition and exiting the company, they're able to have what we call life-changing money at that point, to then go on and start their next venture. And so we really feel like we're changing the way that female entrepreneurship and female founded companies can really show a trajectory when it comes to building personal wealth.
I love this, Jessica. And I think this work is so important because I have worked for entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs who found themselves in this situation where it's like, I don't know that I could sell this company because I am the company. So do we even want to be creating personal brands these days? What are your thoughts on that?
So I think a personal brand is really important to coincide with the business, because your personal brand is what is going to offer you opportunities for the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's going to allow you to be an investor. It's going to allow you to sit on boards. It's going to loop you in as a thought leader into some really phenomenal, philanthropy work. I mean, there's just so much out there that your personal brand can do for you that your business brand can't. However, with that being said, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that female entrepreneurs make is they don't release control of the company until they're too far into it, and either the business is imploded or they've imploded personally because of the overwhelm. Where men get into business for a very different reason. They have their eye on the prize and what that's going to look like, and they delegate and they have that end goal in mind. We just don't see enough women going into entrepreneurship with the understanding of how they can do that and still build something with a really strong culture, with a really great mission. And so we audit 2 to 3 multi-million dollar companies per month. So we see it all from the behind the scenes perspective. And I would say maybe 10% of those could actually go to acquisition, or the founder could actually exit. 90% of them just have not been built in a way where anybody would give them the valuation amount or would even show interest in buying them because of the way that the infrastructure has been created.
Okay, that is so fascinating. And I know this is not a quick answer, but for those of us who are getting into business, or maybe we've been in it a couple of years, we're seeing success, what mindset shifts or what structures do we need to maybe be setting up in our business so that we don't get to that point where we're kind of pigeonholed into not being able to exit our company if that's the long-term goal?
Yes. So the business isn't about us, right? So even somebody like me who delivers a high ticket service, I am, the strategic thinker of the brand. It's never about me. It's about my clients and it's about my team. So how am I getting the clients the top results, and how am I developing this team of really top talent that also has acquisition experience, that are also running, 7 and 8 figure businesses of
Mhm.
their own, so that it can be more about me. It's not my name on, hanging on the wall. We have a different brand for that. And I think that when we pull back the curtains and we look at these companies, the founders are just so immersed in everything from administration to finance to operations to service deliverables to being the point of contact for the client, that there's so much risk that comes with that. And as somebody who does invest in companies, I'm not buying anything where I have to buy you as the founder, right? The goal is
Right.
that I can come in and plug and play your business into an entity I've already built, or that I can come in strategically and really take it from 2 million to 20 million. I can't do that if you're still in the mix, right? But if you have a really solid team and you have really great offers and you have really great systems that I can purchase and then take you out of that and I can grow and scale it, that's where I'm going to find the most opportunity and the
Mhm.
most value, and I'm going to give you top dollar for it. And so I think that if you're somebody right now that doesn't have a strong number two, or your team is made up of C and B players and you can't trust them, they're not
Mhm.
innovative, nobody else is strategic in the company besides you, you have a lot of risk. And not just for an acquisition or a merger. You have a lot of risk now in that if tomorrow you got sick and you couldn't work for 3 months or something
Mhm.
happened and we had to pull you out of the business, if the revenue stops because of something like that, your
Mhm.
company has a red flag risk model.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I mean, I'm just thinking about all the years of experience and all the businesses that you've seen and continue to see and the trends, and just to know this information is so fascinating. Would you say there's like a certain point that financially that your business hits that you want to like, okay, this is how I need to start thinking? Is it like you have to hit a certain amount in revenue, or can you do this kind of from the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely ways to do it from the beginning. I'm not a fan of like have a 5 year plan, because the 5 year plan is not sustainable. Whatever you create as your 5 year plan, you can't factor in politics. You can't factor in economy. You can't factor in things happening like COVID or the cancel culture that was happening for so many brands. Like there are so many variables that will impact a 5 year plan. However, what you do have control over is, who am I going to be as the founder? Am I committed
Mm.
to evolution? Am I committed to continuous education? Am I committed to making big risk and investments into top talent? That's ultimately going to give you that strong foundation. But once you hit 1 million in revenue, a lot has to change from a business perspective when it comes to scalability. And so that's why we have $1 million revenue threshold in place, because oftentimes, and that's just a one threshold. Like there's a lot of prerequisites that we need in order to take on a client for an audit, because they're not just investing in us. Chances are we're going to find that there needs to be increased headcount, or there needs
Mm.
to be somebody brought in at a higher level, or rebranding or marketing or investment into tech. And so we just find that a lot of 6 figure entrepreneurs just don't have the cash flow to be able to make those
Mhm.
investments. And at that point, they really just need to focus on the proof of concept and scaling it to a volume based model or to a high ticket model. And
Mhm.
then we can come in and really restructure, reorganize so that it can go to 10 million. It can go to 20 million, not because the founder is doing more. It's oftentimes because we need you doing a lot less. We need you being head
Mhm.
up and the team being head down, where most entrepreneurs are so head down, they're in the weeds, that they can't even create that next level vision and what that needs to look like because they're too bogged down.
Oh my gosh. So, as you're saying this, I'm thinking this must be an emotional journey to work with you guys, and a lot of mindset shifts for these entrepreneurs who are used to being like all in. How is it for female entrepreneurs to navigate this and really open up their eyes to this and see the possibility, as long as they follow what you guys, the feedback you give them?
Yes. So the difference between working with a firm like ours and all of the, online
Mhm.
business coaches and gurus and mass coaching programs and masterminds and digital downloads is a lot of those programs are do it how I did it and you'll have the same success, or follow this blueprint and you'll understand marketing, or
Mhm.
whatever it may be. Right. And so going through a process like that for an entrepreneur is very emotional and very challenging. And the reason for that is because more times than not, that roadmap, that blueprint, that strategy will not work for their company. So then they're continuously beating themselves up because they're going based
Mhm.
off of emotion. Emotionally, I feel like I should be further. Emotionally, I figure, I feel like I have the wrong team, but I don't know what to do with this team.
Mhm.
Where when we come in, we are so data centric and we're
Mhm.
looking at the analytics, not just of your business, but your market and your industry.
Mhm.
And we've worked with business owners in your industry or in your market that are running 20 million, 30 million, $50 million companies. And so we're able to show if you took all of the emotion aside and all of the fear of having to terminate somebody or the fear of having to, you know, take away this offer or, scale down your offers or create an ascension model or whatever it may be, bring in this tech, you will start to see that it paints the picture of what the business needs to do. We're able to show them like you have 20 retainer clients. 7 of those retainer clients are producing less than 10% profitability. You have
Mhm.
others that are producing 40% profitability. Now that you know that, if we were to replace those 7 that aren't producing the same amount of profit, here's the increased profitability that your business would have annually. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they're able to see it crystal clear. We're mapping it out. We're not saying, okay, tomorrow go fire all 7 of those clients. We're
Mhm.
saying, here's the plan. We're going to put these on notice. They can increase their package
Mhm.
to this rate. And while we have this runway of time, how are we going to bring on new clients at a higher rate that are going to allow the company to grow in a way that's going to be
Mhm.
really effective and give us the cash flow to bring on higher, maybe, a higher level of talent in an account
Mhm.
manager role or a sales role or whatever that may look like. And so that's something that these business owners have never experienced or
Mhm.
never had. And so they've been running off of burnout. They've been running off of emotions and overwhelm and feel like they're pulled in 1,000 directions and they're making these decisions on a whim versus here's exactly what the data is showing. Here's what's possible. And here's 3 different ways that we can achieve that. Which one feels most aligned with where you're looking to go?
Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I would love to just be a fly on the wall and just see you guys at work and just, oh, I'm sure it's just powerful and interesting. And then to see the results that they get, I'm sure it just like fills you and your team's heart so much.
And it's a process, right? We look at the data and sometimes we're like, this isn't correct. And they're like, it has to be correct. And we're like, but it's not correct. There's no way this is correct. So let's loop your accounting team in or let's loop in the sales team. And then we find out that somewhere along the way, somebody plugged in a formula. And so then they've been making decisions off of thinking this is what the sales volume was or thinking and never even questioned the data. But when we see it, we're able to say something's not right here or something's
Mhm.
not adding up. And then even through our due diligence process, we're pressing even further. We have a second round and a third round because
Oh.
without understanding all of the nuances and how we got to this point, we're not able to effectively create strategy if we don't have all of that information that is
Mhm.
custom tailored to this specific client. So we may work with 2 marketing agencies and their audits, their roadmaps, their strategies that we create are always night and day
Mhm.
difference because we're looking at the founder, we're looking at their demographic of client, we're looking at their growth and how sustainable that was and how quickly did it happen. We're looking at, are they marketing to health and wellness that has a ton of opportunity right now? Or are they working with real estate that doesn't have a
Mhm.
ton of opportunity right
Yeah.
now? And then how do we reposition or how do we strategically build that in? And so I think that's important to understand. Your business has a fingerprint to it, and it is very specific to your business model, your
Mhm.
DNA, how things have been built, and then what is it capable of doing moving forward.
Okay, this is fascinating. I have to ask, I feel like I'm talking to so many female entrepreneurs lately who are in this season of like complete transformation or they're burning it down. It
Yeah.
it feels like we're in this like this is almost a trend. Why do you think that's happening? What do you think is going on there?
If you want my honest opinion, I think that when COVID hit, we were in an economic climate that was not, it wasn't sustainable. It wasn't factual. I mean, we saw a huge uptick. There was stimulus, there was unemployment, there was people sitting at home. And so we saw this huge influx to entrepreneurship. And we know that there's no prerequisite. And at the time, you could start a business in a box, or you could start something by just throwing up a sales page. And I think that for a while there, it was the wild, wild west. And it was so easy for anyone and everybody to get business. And you could say you were anything, and you could say you were a business coach, or you could
Mhm.
say you were a marketer, and then, put whatever you want on social media, and people were buying it. It wasn't realistic.
Mhm.
And business is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Very few people will ever make it past the $100,000 mark. Like, that's the hardest part, right?
Mhm.
And so I think when there was supplemental income, and I think when there was, buyers were buying without a lot of education behind it, um, it was easy for a while, right? And now we're seeing more realistic markets. We're seeing that the buyers are more educated. They're asking more questions. They've been burned by courses or
Mhm.
coaches or, agencies or whatever it was that didn't give them the result that they were hoping to achieve. And so now we're starting to get to this point where people could ride that wave. Entrepreneurs could ride that wave for only so long before it hits the shore. And so we are seeing this cleanse and this purge. And I do think it's a really good thing, because not everybody should own a business. We need good employees. And a lot of people that started companies in 2020 to 2022 are much better as employees, and we need them. Like, we want that strategic thinking. We want them to be on our teams. And so if you're somebody that was fighting entrepreneurship for a long time and it felt
Mhm.
really hard and like the income wasn't there, go work for the entrepreneurs that you value and that you look up to, and that you have an aligned skill set with,
Mhm.
because there's just a lot of opportunity there. So I think that's one of the things that's causing it. And I think the other one is that because buyers were buying without proper education, people were launching like, oh, you need this? I'm going to do a course for that. Or,
Mhm.
oh, I'm going to start a group program. Or, oh, I'm going to have this offer. And so business owners had, 13, 14 offers,
Oh, yeah.
and we've seen just pure chaos of like, they have offers that are doing 1,000 a year and another one that's doing 60,000 a year. And there's no clear, like, what are you really good at and
Mhm.
who are you targeting? Because right now we're targeting anyone and everyone that will potentially swipe their credit card. And that's detrimental to a business.
Mhm.
And so I do think a lot of founders are realizing, I grew my team too large, or I had too
Mhm.
many offers, or I thought I had to do it this way to be successful. And then they got into a really hard cash flow crunch
Mhm.
and realized, like, this is not sustainable.
Oh my gosh. I see that because I was in that world very much for so long. And so that makes a lot of sense. I want to shift to your podcast, of course.
Yeah.
And so you started it in a year ago in January, I believe, right? So you just hit the year mark, which congrats.
Thank you.
How has that been for you? And how does that kind of sit and exist within your business?
Yes. So one of the things about podcasts is, for years, people said you need to have a podcast. And my team always said it too, because I don't really like showing up on social
Mhm.
media and doing a ton of content. But I knew what was realistic for myself as far as bandwidth. I had twins that were 2, 3 years old during COVID and home all the time. And I have multiple companies. I'm investing. Like there was a lot of things that strategically it made more sense for me to spend any additional time I had in the companies and the growth and scalability of the brands until I could get to a place where I had really strong number twos. So I didn't need to be involved as much. And it freed up some time for me to do the podcast. I will say with the podcast, I am not involved in anything but showing up and recording. I have a phenomenal team that does production, that does administration, that does all of the branding and the strategy around it. And so that has been really helpful in that it's not that much of a time suck. We are very much ahead of schedule. So we are recording months in advance, which feels really good because I can take time off from it at any given time and know that everything's pre-produced months ahead of schedule. But for me, it was more of a legacy play because we're referral only and we're high ticket. So do our leads listen to the podcast? Yes, but they've already kind of been nurtured into the ecosystem. And I would say where I found a lot of value is because we have a 7-figure threshold to work with our firm. It was difficult because I want to get more of the 6-figure founders into the 7s. And so this gave me a way where every single week I'm either having a conversation with a multi-million-dollar founder that's giving them advice, or I'm recording the solo episodes where I'm really targeting content that's going to be so valuable to them that they can apply right away into their business models to grow and scale and hopefully get past that 7-figure mark that they're all itching for. And so it's been almost like a legacy play for me, in that I know that this is something that will live on and that these episodes are there. And if somebody just now learns about me, they've got this catalog of resources to lean into, and also incredible founder stories of how building personal wealth impacts our lives in so many ways beyond the Ferraris and the big houses and all the things that people think it does.
I think that's so beautiful. And I think it's refreshing to hear somebody with such a successful business just say that their podcast is a legacy play, because we don't hear that very often. But really, the end goal is to support females and hitting that threshold and be able to move there. So I think that's so beautiful. So you have shared something with me that I love, and I actually had never thought about that you are doing with your podcast. So you have to tell my audience about this. It's so fascinating, and I'm going to go look into it for myself.
Yes. So when I decided to start the podcast and I brought somebody on my team that had years worth of experience building another podcast for a thought leader that had over 1 million downloads. So you have to hire the experts like Kylee, because I would not have known where to start, what to do. She did everything, the naming, the trademarking, and I brought her in internally. So she is in the media company. We started a separate entity called Millions Were Made Media Group. And what that allowed us to do is I was able to bootstrap that company. I was able to self-fund it, write the company alone, pay it back on interest. And the way the media company makes money is through Tailored Premier, my firm, advertising every single month. So we plug in some commercials, advertising the firm, advertising free digital downloads that we have that can be a resource to our listeners. It grows that email list for us. And through that media company, you can set it up as a talent LLC, because as a talent LLC, there's a lot of write-offs that you can do when it comes to like clothing, hair, makeup, if you're going to be speaking on stages, your personal brand. So highly recommend setting it up in that format. But what it does is it just keeps the brands so separate. And you're going to want to do that because say you grow a podcast and another media agency, somebody larger, wants to buy you and you get to plug and play into their model. Your main source of revenue is not tied in whatsoever. You can also show that you've been receiving advertising funds. And then same is that if I were to build the firm and exit, I could still have my media company. I could still have the podcast. I could talk all about the exit, and it not have anything for blurred lines when it comes to revenue, the business model, and what a potential investor would be buying.
Oh my gosh, Jessica, it's so brilliant. I love that idea so much. Like I said, my listeners should check into it no matter where you are. I think it's so smart. Now, I did have one more question, but I think we're on time. So I just want to wrap up and say, Jessica, thank you for being here. This was so eye opening. I could sit and just listen to you talk forever. Where can my listeners find out more about you, your podcast, all of the good things?
Yes. So on Instagram, I'm at the Jessica Marx, Marx, and I answer my DMs, which Kylee knows.
Mhm.
So if you have any questions, feel free to ping me. I will always be more than happy to voice memo you back and share business advice. The podcast is Millions Were Made, and we share stories and, the success secrets of $1 million founders. And you can find the firm at tailoredpremier.com.
Amazing. Well, you're doing really important work. So thank you for you and your team. And thank you for being here. I'm just so grateful that we connected, Jessica.
Thank you, Kylee.